He wanted to win throughout his career. You think of GSL Katowice, you think of BlizzCon, but the one tournament he's never won is this one. And I'm sure he's got his eyes on it. And that makes it, even for Dark, a bit scarier to like, do I just fire up that lair? Is it okay to tack up? Especially if you know who's on the other side. It's gonna be a fun one. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. In the bottom right side, we are looking at the main base of that Korean Zerg, who's been around forever. He has won pretty much all of it, besides this one. Is this his year? This is Dark.
And his opponent in the top left, the most overlooked player in the group stages. He has come out with fresh surprises for everyone. I don't see any reason why that's going to stop yet. In the top left for Mystery Gaming, it is SHIN. Formerly known as Ragnarok. He really is a unique player, SHIN. He's such a cerebral player. It's all about the mental game. I definitely think Dark's a bit faster than him, a bit scrappier, and his ability to make comebacks is definitely higher tier, but SHIN's a thinking player, and if he can get a read on how his opponent's going to play, he will come up with an exceptional plan for beating them.
And what's incredibly fun about SHIN as well is that he's so damn decisive, and he plays everything with a lot of heart and commitment. You have people who think, hey, this might be the right moment to go for this strategy, but then they're afraid to bring it out like, oh, but what if he does X, Y, or Z? I have the feeling that SHIN never even thinks about the doom scenarios. He just sees a pretty clear path to victory. It's like, hey, if I make a lot of Lings and Ravagers right now and I move to the other side of the map and I show him A, but I'm actually going for B, it's going to work. And that is kind of what you need, right? StarCraft is a scary game. You can't always be in control of how your opponent is going to react to what they see. But SHIN plays everything with a lot of heart and belief. And that is honestly what sets him apart, right? Because he does all these Baneling all-ins, these Link floods against Terrans. We're like, that's not supposed to work, because if the Terran has X, Y, or Z, doesn't think about it for a second.
No, there is no room for indecision. There is no room for second-guessing yourself, not in a match as StarCraft. Something people learned 25 years ago in StarCraft 1 very quickly, and it's carried over even more so, one could argue, to StarCraft 2, a game that is blitzing fast in its engagements. Now, we do see the first big deviation of the players. SHIN has gone for Link speed, whilst Dark has not. So Dark looks like he's probably going to be walling off and going for either a 2-base Roach, or he could be going for fast Mutalisks.
That's what you say, right? He could be walling off, he should be walling off, because normally if you don't get Zergling speed, you don't wall off. But Dark is crazy. This is exactly what he did against Solar on this map. And Solar thought he was the greedy one, as Dark, by the way, good move there with that drone on hold position, is going to prevent the Zergling from running into the main base. If you're SHIN right now, there could still be so many things. Dark could have even done something as weird as grab a couple drones from the main, send them into the net, you'll be like, hey, nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, he's got 28 Zerglings waiting in his main. Dark is so omega greedy. He did this exact same thing against Solar, and Solar already thought that he was greedy, where he's like, all right, I'm going to make a couple of Roaches, but then I'll go into quick Mutalisk. And Dark's like, well, that's a shame of your gas, mate, because I made 0 Roaches, and I'm going to go Mutas too. We are going to have an Evolution Chamber here. We are going to have a Roach one, so maybe Dark is going to switch it up from here on out, but the man really has very little fear in his openings too.
Oh, no. I mean, definitely, I think I agree with everything like the desk was saying, you know, play a bit safer versus SHIN, go to the late game because you're advantage there, but it's just not in Dark's nature. Play safe, hedge your bets. No, he's going to rush Mutalisks as fast as possible. And SHIN, with a lair only now starting, will have a third base advantage, but does he have the confidence to use it? If he knew what was happening, he'd be droning very hard right now, would be SHIN, really getting that third base saturation up, getting extra queens, spreading creep, and he could kind of defend the 3-base. The problem is he doesn't know what's going on. He's like, is there a Ling flood? Is it going to be Roaches? And without that information, SHIN will be hard-pressed to make any correct decision.
Is there a world where you think he could still go for a Queen Roach Nidus attack? I think that'd be pretty powerful, because Dark has very few units at the moment.
I think it would be a bit too late with his lair timing. Of course, you could still do like a delayed one, but the Mutalisks are almost certainly going to be out before that Nidus worm goes down.
Mutas are great, and they will eventually clean up Roaches, but if you only have a few Mutas to deal with a whole bunch of Roaches and Queens, maybe even drones hopping out of a Nidus to build Spore Crawlers on the other side of the map, like SHIN could still theoretically kill 30 drones and then he'd be completely okay. But if he wants to go down that route, he needs to make the decision right here, right now, and even that's cutting it close. Seems like that is not going to be the case. Kind of feels that Dark got away with murder over here in game 1.
Yeah, with such a, I mean, this is such a kind of crazy build order, but if Shin's not doing like some sort of Ling Flood or something to take advantage of him, then it's just something you can't deal with. And seeing Aspire already finished, Shin, I'm looking at his face, because that is always a surprise. You're like, oh, wow, really? Really? Already finished at 5 minutes? You know that your opponent has been very naughty in the opening stage.
And one of the most difficult things about playing against Mutalisk, especially if your opponent was very greedy in ZVZ, is securing a 4th base. Like, I believe that if Shin just wants to chill on 3 bases, of course he can do that, right? You can build a spore per base, you can build 1 spore in the middle of the natural and the 3rd. You're going to be okay. But getting up to 4 bases, especially on a map like Side Delta, it's just kind of hard, right? No matter where you take it, it's always going to be pretty far away. Dark, by the way, has also fired up +1 melee. So, yeah, he built a Roach Warren pick and literally did not use it at all. Just kind of tried to trick his opponent or pretend that he would be ready for something. It is just +1 melee circling. So many mutas this early on. Shin is in all sorts of trouble, even though nothing has happened yet. He is going to get that safety spore up in the middle of these bases. Do you think the plan might just be try to max out on 3 bases and send it big? Like,
yeah, I mean, you could take a very late 4th. Because Dark is going Mutaling Bane, you are going to be more efficient if you can get Infestors out to fungal the Banelings and the Mutas. But he's stuck. I mean, Shin doesn't have any other choices. Normally, when the Mutas arrive, you're meant to be up 10, 12, 15 drones because you've got no map control and you've got no vision. In this case, Shin has been even or down on workers. Yep. So he is playing from exceptionally far behind. If he can stall out this, get enough spores and queens up, and actually successfully defend, I'm going to be incredibly impressed.
Same, these queens don't have that much energy either, right? Because this is only a 6-minute 30-second game, so it's not like you have been working with these queens forever and you were able to gather up a whole bunch of energy. Shin is going to queue up a couple of Infestors, but Fungal is definitely not as good against Mutalisk as it once upon a time was. It almost feels to me that Shin right now is like praying. It's like, hey, Dark, you should make a couple of Mutas and then go back into Roaches, and then we can just have a good old Roach battle. But Dark is having none of that. The Zerglings show up even before +1. The vast majority of these queens have fallen, and this is a nightmare start to this best of 5 for Shin.
He needed perfect defense. Those Roaches, if they were pre-split, he could have defended them from the Zerglings, but even then the Muta count alone is getting out of control, and this has just been a very dirty opening build order for Dark that's caught him completely off guard.
Shin is never going to have enough anti-air. Even if he lands a couple of Mutas, Mutas just don't deal that much damage. Dark is going to split up these Mutas as well. One of the queens is going to get burrowed, but I really think this is just kind of it already for game 1. Shin, I think, was banking on the fact that Dark would only make a couple of Mutas and then try to surprise him with a lot of Roaches and Ravages. That was absolutely not the case. Shin is going to make a Hail Mary counterattack on the other side of the map. He does have Burrow and Tunneling Claws, so this is going to be a little bit annoying, but he has taken so much damage. It's 4 base Dark, who can make a couple of spines, who is going to clean up all these Roaches. It's just a matter of time. Don't really see this going anywhere for Shin, unfortunately, in game 1.
It's a great build order for Dark to play if he thinks he's a big underdog. It's incredibly surprising for the player who's such a favorite to do such a wild opening build order. And it's just not something you're thinking about as Shin at the start of the game. You're like, oh, what if he just builds 0 units and he just makes the fastest layer of all time, builds 50 drones, and surprises me with 5.5-minute Mutalisks? That's not what you're thinking about before the series starts. It's a devious play for Dark. It's part of why we find him so difficult to play against, because he doesn't just play safe and careful. He's going to do crazy stuff like this.
Yep. He is a little bit low on the drone count after he lost a couple of drones. He's got a ridiculous amount of Mutas, probably enough to end the game, unless he gets fungled 5 times on top of multiple Spore Crawlers and all the queens. Kind of feels that Dark just wants to end this game right at this point. He's had enough. He's like, mate, like, come on. Nothing. Roaches are not going to kill Mutas. I'm also not here with 7 Mutalisks. I've got 28 of them and a single Spore, double Spore. It is never going to be enough. Shin is going to do his best to bring those Infestors over, but 9 drones have already fallen. It's just a matter of time before a whole lot more goes down.
A couple Fungals, like you said before, 25 damage a Fungal. It's 120 hit points on the Mutalisk, and they have rapid regeneration. You need a lot more anti-air than that. When you lose your first queens, it's basically game over, because the whole defense is predicated on those queens gathering energy so they can keep transfusing, the Infestors gathering energy, and the Spore Crawlers there all being supported, because Spores plus Transfuse really don't go down to Mutalisks, but he's always been fighting with one thing at a time.
Shin's multitasking is kind of cool with a couple of Roaches, right? And he spread them across 3 or 4 different bases. He's burrowing them all over the shop, picking up the spine, working with a couple of drones. But the thing is, Dark will always clean this up. And then the moment that Dark says, all right, you had your fun, now it's my time to have some fun. Like, he's a 34 Mutalisk at this point. The only thing that could ever save Shin is if he had Hive Tech and you have some Vipers too, right? The combination of Fungal Fungo and Vipers would be magical, but he simply does not have the economy to sneak out some Vipers.
I was going to say he missed these roaches, and he did. He doesn't have Overlord speed yet. Where's the Overseer? Oh, there it is. Okay, the Overseer does come down. He finds these roaches. So many Mutalisks. Oh my lord. There's not even a Carapace upgrade. We know Carapace is one of the most important upgrades fighting against Mutaling Bane, because you've got all these small bits of bounce damage, Zergling damage. If you can get +2 Carapace, it really takes the fire away from Darkstyle. But SHIN is working with the dregs of a Zerg economy. 41 drones, 14 roaches, a couple of infestors and queens. Right now we are watching a weapons-grade Couponium. It is just, he's way behind. It's a rough game one. I like that he's fighting it out. He's playing well, but he's just in a terrible spot. I think what he's got to do here is clear the slate mentally and think about the next game. You can't be going into this thinking like, okay, this is going to happen again. You've got to say, this is a one-off surprise. Dark caught me with it. No worries, let's just go into game 2 and imagine it's a fresh series.
Yep, 94 supply, couple queens, couple spores. I'm not totally up to date with the lingo these days, Pig, but I believe they call this the hopium or the copium. Somewhere in the middle. Like, it would make sense to still try to make something of this game if you had Hive, right? Because it doesn't matter, even if they have 60 Mutalisks, you land a couple of sick Parabombs and you combine that with a Fungo or two, where the Fungo is more about keeping those Mutas together, you can make magical comebacks. But of Lair Tech with a couple of Hydras that don't have upgrades, as you said, the man has no economy, and Hydras are actually somewhat expensive.
I love the single roach sniping a drone and running away. SHIN's looking for the small gains right now, the little value gains, the Pyrrhic victories, and the Mutalisks are going to continue circling the base. Dark in his element, having fun. Dark is a master of getting into games where it looks like he doesn't have to do anything too fancy from there. Like he puts himself in positions where he just gets to have fun. Flying Mutalisks around him, picking off Spore Crawlers, dodging Fungals. I mean, this is Zerg's best idea of what a ZVZ could look like. And it's also so comfortable and rare. You get to play Mutaling against Roach. So starting the series like this is a very freeing feeling. It's very fun.
Almost feels that Dark is trying to set some sort of record here for highest amount of Mutas in a single game. He's going to drop the Baneling Nest now as well, maybe. Thinks like, all right, SHIN, if you're going to have that many spores, I do need to respect it a tiny bit. There is no economy on SHIN's side at all. 35 drones, sneaking out a few Hydras right now. Dark obviously can take a 5th base, a 6th base, can make a few more drones if he wants to, but at this point he's maxed out. I think he's just ready to roll a whole bunch of Banelings forward. Fungo is actually kind of decent against Banes, so that's something that Dark has to keep in mind. But
it's surprising how late the Baneling's Nest is, really. Normally Banelings are a big part of this, but you can tell Dark was like, no, every bit of gas goes to Mutalisks. It's like, we're just going to have a crazy count, and he used it really well with the Zerglings coming in also. Honestly, I would normally say, okay, why haven't we won the game yet? But you gotta realize, like, Dark's just like, well, you don't normally finish the game instantly with Mutas. You take your time and you just pick away at them. Oh, okay. Bit clump there, but doesn't take a Mega Fungal. Few Mutalisks does not really matter.
You remember that fight that Dark took on the bottom side of the map? Was it against Showtime here on Side Delta, where he just spread all those out and he moved the Corruptors forward? You can kind of do that now again with some Fungos, right? Where you can just kind of magic box the entire Mutalisk army above the army of SHIN. It's like, yeah, you've got some spellcasting. It doesn't really matter because I've got a ridiculous amount of Mutas and I'm going to be okay here.
I really look at games like this purely from the side of SHIN. The player who is in a 0.1% win percentage chance position, maybe not 0.1, it's probably a bit harsh, say 1%. And I look at them and I think, what's your mentality here? Because there's two reactions you have to a series starting wrong that you commonly see. One is, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. Oh no, and everything that happens that's bad for you in the game kind of hurts your mentality more and more. And then there's other players who kind of just go, well, this happened, I'm in a terrible spot. You know what? Let's just play it out, see if I can make any good plays. Maybe he screws up and makes a mistake. And there really doesn't seem to be any stress on SHIN's face that I can read. Obviously, he doesn't look too happy with the situation he's in, but he doesn't look particularly upset. So I think he's quite calm.
I don't think he's been very happy ever since he spotted that 5-minute Spire, where he was already like, oh, really?
It's finished?
Yeah, that's...
At 5 minutes, really?
ZVZ we're gonna play. Dark is ready to send it with Banelings coming in from multiple angles. Banelings in the 3rd base. Banelings gonna roll into the natural. The main base, we still have those 50 or so Mutalisks doing its thing. SHIN is now gonna try to send his pretty damn big army to the other side of the map, but he basically needs to win the fight. He needs to deal with the remaxes. He needs to take out all the buildings as well. It feels almost impossible, but hey, that is still an army, right, Pig? We're gonna get a little bit of excitement out of it.
Yeah.
Imagine if the Banelings all get fungled before they connect with any of these Hydras, even though I don't think that 21 Hydras are going to win the fight against 44 Mutas, especially not if the Infestors are Support the Hydras.
You should bring the Overseer back if he could do it, but oh, he's just going to go straight for the Hydras, and there we go. The Infestors aren't there to support. The Banelings coming forward. Fungal can land, but already all the firepower is gone, and there's just too many mutas. You don't have enough Fungal to get all of them. You'd need Parasitic Bomb as well to take care of that, and SHIN, of course, never made it to Hive Tech. A very dirty, risky Mutalisk rush, one which you foreshadowed. You called it. You said he did this exact same thing against Solar back in Atlanta, and he's pulling it out again. A massive way to start off the series.
Yeah, and that's kind of... SHIN is probably chuckling as well, because these guys always do their homework. And I'm sure that he took a little look at that game, and he'd be like, okay, well, he should know that I'm going to take a look at that game. If the casters know it, SHIN should absolutely know it too. And it's like, yeah, Dark is probably going to make it look like he's doing that, but then do something completely different. And that's what CVZ is often about, right? You show something, you want to try to tell a story to your opponent, but you're actually going down a completely different path. And Dark is like, no, it actually is what it looks like. I'm going to do it, but you won't believe me, so I'm going to get away with it. And hey, life's pretty good.
I feel like StarCraft's a simpler game sometimes for Dark. He just has this instinct for what's going to work and what won't. It feels like he isn't there furiously crunching numbers like other players. He just knows. He's got a sense for it, and he finds the damage. Takes him a while to shave SHIN down and get him completely out of the game. But it was basically lights out from the 7-minute mark. The moment he got in and took out all the queens with his first big Mutalisk wave, there was no coming back from that.
Even before he got all those queens, I already thought it was going to be a very difficult game for SHIN. Because SHIN would always fall base behind. He would always fall pretty far economically behind. I just don't really see a way where you can secure a 4th base with enough anti-air to be like, yeah, I want to go up to 4 bases now. So I guess then you have like 2 choices. Either you were going for the super early all-in, or you say, all right, 3 bases is what it is, and you get double or even triple spore per base, and then you drop that infestation pit, and you try to make it up to Hive. Because Vipers truly are absolutely fantastic against Mutalisk, even if you are amazing as a Zerg player like Zero or Dark in finding that Muta that gets parabombed. If you're looking at 3 or 4 Vipers, even by the time you split them off, they already deal a tremendous amount of damage.
They just get shredded, and they fall apart. I mean, we occasionally see those splits where someone gets like 3 mutas out of the pack quickly, but you're not doing that more than once. It's going to take massive damage. It's going to be brutal. Speaking of brutal, the man who is so unpredictable, he's always got a nasty trick up his sleeve. At the top right side of the map in the red, it's Dark.
Excellent run. First tournament representing his new org with that great announcement video, by the way. That was a lot of fun, featuring Tasteless, Gemini, Ziggy. That was awesome. In the bottom left side, we are looking at the main base of our Zerg that made it into the semi-finals last year over here in Poland. Representing Mystery Gaming, this is SHIN.
Both players going for a 15 hatchery build. This is the safe opening in the matchup right now. Solaris is a match where we do see a lot of 12 pools and 12 pool drone pools. Both players are saying, how can I be safe? Well, if I go 15 hatchery, 15 pool, I can get my queens and zerglings out over 10 seconds early. And that's going to be great. 10, 11 seconds early on queens and zerglings. You'll shut that down. But actually, well, SHIN is following it up with... oh me, oh my, he's doing it. He's doing the old build. I have a name for this build that I can't say on this stream. It's been a classic for 6 years now, and it is the dirtiest all-in you could pull out in this matchup. You make it look like a normal hatchery first, and then you flood zerglings, and it is an insanely heavy amount of zerglings. It is so hard to stop. Basically, as Dark, you need to just get your queens together on your ramp. You need to pull a bunch of drones, because he's going to be probably up 10, 12, 13 workers, and you can lose a lot of those and still hold and be okay, but you need to react very quickly.
Would SHIN take Dark to your favorite town pick?
Oh, I think he's definitely wanting to after that game 1. I think he'd like to take him on a nice trip around that town, my friend.
As a big fan of your stream, I know the town you're talking about, and I have an idea about the build you call it, but all right. Zergling speed is on the way. Dark has his first Overlord chilling outside of the natural, so he probably thinks everything up to this point looks pretty similar to what I have done. We obviously know that in the main base that is not the case. I do love this approach, by the way, from SHIN. This is also the map with all the acceleration zones in the center, which can make things a little bit weird. But SHIN, for him to have a real shot in this best of 5, he needs to do what he does best. That's make a lot of units early and just freaking send it. I don't want to say close your eyes, because we want to micro a little bit. We want to make sure that we know what we run into. But these are the builds that we all expect to see out of him. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I do believe this is his best shot.
Dark's not going Zergling speed, so Dark is once again playing one of these two-base sort of wall-off builds. Wall-off is not the defense to this. This Lynx Flood comes so early.
But his wall-off was so freaking late anyway. Even on Delta, his wall-off is mega late.
Absolutely. With this build, like even if you start it on time, the Lings are way too early. You need to defend your ramp. He'll have 4 queens on his ramp, which is great. The problem is he's got nothing else. He needs to build a spine crawler on the high ground, get all 4 queens on the ramp as quickly as possible.
I always love looking at the camera of one of the players who's like banking up Lynx. Shit is like...
Oh yeah, you can see the tongue poking its way out there. The please don't see this, please don't see this, please don't see
nothing
this.
to see here, guys. And here come all the Zerglings, and Dark is gonna have to pull off an absolutely fantastic hold. He is gonna try to wall off. We've got 2 Evo Chambers and a Roach Warren. 1 Queen is in the gap. We probably need a Spine as well, because Dark just has no DPS. That Evo Chamber or Roach Warren is gonna obviously tank quite a bit, but it's just a matter of time before these Zerglings are going to stream through. That is the Great Wall of Dark, and I gotta say that first Evo Chamber is buying an immense amount of time.
That is a sick wall-off defense so far. Even the Queen up front getting transfused. The Evo Chamber on the top will go down, but he's got plenty of Zerglings building. I think this is a whole Dark with a crisp wall-off. He's already killed so many Zerglings. This is massive.
That's actually very big. At least the Roach one is going to go down. That was just perfect. When he dropped those buildings, the Lings are going to work on it. Felt that the Lings weren't totally certain what they wanted to go for at first. Dark is now stuck in a kind of an awkward spot, obviously. This is still not cheap, right? Like, it's a fantastic hold for Dark, but Dark lost his Roach Warren. Dark is now stuck with 5 Evolution Chambers in his natural. Those were 5 Evos that obviously could have been drones, so it's not that SHIN did nothing. SHIN also has map control, he's got Zergling speed.
Yeah.
Like, I believe there is a world where SHIN can just macro from here. He is going to drop the Baneling Nest, and he's still building a couple of Zerglings now. Oh my goodness, he's going to triple down.
So Kev, in this scenario, you were basically pointing out all the logical next steps. Go Mutalisk, stack into your own roaches, drone up. SHIN says, I feel I'm a bit behind. I don't want to play straight up against Dark. I need to surprise him. What would be the most ridiculous thing to do right now that he would never expect? Massling Bane is just that. Blocks the Changeling. The problem is the Overseer is going to get in the main. Yep. The Overseer getting in the main, if it scouts what's happening, which, no lair, and it's going to see Zergling sitting there, double gas, not many drones at all.
Exactly.
What the hell is going on? Dark should have immediately been able to get more Evos and Spines, or not even Spines, just Roaches, anything to survive. He's walling off with 3 more Evos. Oh, this is amazing.
Yep, we're going to build nothing but Roaches. The Banelings are already here, and that first Evolution Chamber is somewhat low on HP, so it is going to fall. The Broodlings will buy a tiny bit of time, but the second wall-off is absolutely perfect over here for Dark. And we have seen this before. This doesn't go well for Zerglings, and with all those dead Evos, the Broodlings come out as well to buy some time. The Lings are looking for a surround, but Dark is not going to give it to SHIN.
No, Dark is all over this. That initial wall-off was clutch, and SHIN stopped in his tracks.
Sick.
Dark has figured something out, and that is, you know what? Let's just skip the Ling speed part of the game. SHIN's really good at that. I don't even want to skirmish with him. I just want to turtle up on 2 bases, and he can block the all-ins with wall-offs as he's showing. That was perfect layered Evo Chambers. The way he quickly shuffled his queens out of the way, put down new ones, didn't have creep tumors blocking anything important. Really well done.
Yep. And since that Evo Chamber was like not early enough that it would die immediately, but it was pretty far along that it would just regenerate HP all this time. It bought a crazy amount of time for Dark. Absolutely loved the defense there. That was not easy. He did it well, but I still think at this moment right here, I was like, SHIN, if you go into droning, you're going to catch up rather quickly. You're the one with map control. Dark is walled in. Sure, Dark has a lair, but he doesn't have road speed yet. He doesn't have anything that's like massive. Yeah. I believe that's the spot that SHIN could have played a quote-unquote normal game from, but he didn't want to. He doubled down, but the scout by Dark, that's a game-winning scout, right? Because Dark did actually queue up 2 drones for a split second, but then that Changeling got picked off, and it's like, oh, okay, let's send the Overseer into the main, and he saw everything. No lair, very low drone count, the Baneling Nest, and at that point he's like, cool, more Evo Chambers.
In no world did SHIN expect the lair to be finished, right? He thought, oh, you see this Ling Flood, you've probably cancelled a lair even if you had started it, and you're not really focusing on getting it back up that quickly. You're re-droning your 2 bases, and then you're going to be like moving out to take a third as your Overseer scouting, and that's when the Ling Bane will come in. And obviously, there was a lair that finished during it, and that just basically hard-counted his setup. It's a gamble for a reason. Gambles don't always work, and taking that risk does end up costing him big. Down here in the bottom left side, he is looking for a ridiculously dominant finish here to go through to the top 4. In the bottom left of the map, representing Talent Esports, it's Dark.
Looking so damn good. I really do feel he's been looking better than last year's Katowice, where he had an alright run, but we all looked at the games, we're like, this is crazy, this doesn't make too much sense. It really does feel that Dark is in complete control of almost everything that he's been doing in most of his matches up to this point. This man last year caused one of the biggest upsets in StarCraft II IEM Katowice history. He's gonna have to pull another one off like that. He's in serious trouble here in the quarterfinals. Can he turn things around? Mystery Gaming's SHIN. Dark, of course, one match away right now, Pick, from qualifying for the Esports World Cup.
Massive. It's such a huge thing. You know, getting through to there, it's obviously so much more guaranteed money, prestige, the chance to compete on another huge stage later on in the year would be massive, but still that $500,000 and the trophy here as well, so it is just stacking up benefits if he can finish this match.
We have the pool going down behind the mineral line over here of Dark. SHIN doing pretty much the same thing on the other side of the map. Both players taking the extractor. Wouldn't hate to see like a somewhat normal game entering into a lair, right? Where both of them fire up a lair at the same time. And we take it from there to see who gets the best of who when it comes down to walking around with all those roaches. It did feel that SHIN had great multitasking with all those burrowed roaches that he was spreading across different bases of Dark very quick. It was just a little too late for that to really have an impact in game 1. I wonder if he can find himself in that scenario. And when we talk about being aggressive or being true to yourself, it doesn't have to be a low drone all-in.
No.
It can also just be spamming a crazy amount of roaches, links, ravages of 55 drones plus 2 missile attacks, and that's basically what you do, and SHIN does that kind of stuff incredibly well too.
The problem so far in this series for SHIN has been that he is generally a tricky player. He likes to gamble a little bit to try and, you know, lean super hard into a certain advantage. But Dark, he has had his number. He's blocked those moves very, very well. And moving into that realm of a more balanced early game, I absolutely agree, maybe the play for SHIN. Look for the big swings, the big gambles in the mid game. Set yourself up a bit more, because Dark seems to have some very clever openings, but on the other hand, Dark is limiting himself to 2 bases. He's never taking a fast third. He's doing the same opening once again, and he's never going link speed. So you yourself can play quite greedy with no link speed threat, and you can out-expand him by taking a third.
Yes, but you can't also be 100% certain of that, because this is still Dark, and he's also willing to switch it up at any given moment, and any of the builds that SHIN is capable of, Dark can throw them at you as well. SHIN is gonna do what you said though, Pig, be like, alright, you're gonna be greedy, I'm just gonna try to out-greed your greed. So far, Dark is kind of matching him step for step. Could turn into a good old Muda versus Muda game, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it would be wild, I think, for Dark to do very fast mutas again, but the exact same thought crossed my mind where I was like, is it? Are they both going to do it? It's a possibility. A bit more likely in these scenarios to see a Roach muta, where it's just a few mutalisks and then go back into Roaches.
Yeah, but that's what Solar tried to do against Dark. But the Roach muta is just so much worse than Zergling muta, and that's why SHIN is going to fire up +1 melee. Dark is firing up +1 missile attacks. Can also be that Dark is maybe expecting a build like this coming out of SHIN. And I really wonder what Dark will make out of this scenario, because if they both decide to drop a Spire, it is absolutely going to favor SHIN, because he's going to have very quick +1 melee. Zerglings are just a better support unit to the Muta than Roaches are. Well, let's see what Dark decides to drop. If Dark drops the Nidus right now, it's something I'm going to be like, how on earth does he know, Pig?
That would be pretty amazing. Spire has started for SHIN. I feel like the Overseer Scout's going to be important, and we are now on SHIN's camera. He's seen on the left side of his minimap, a Overlord is leaving his vision. So for him, it's all going to be about keeping an eye on his minimap and denying Overseers coming in to scout his Spire. It's entering his main base. There we go. You see how quick he is to respond? Beautiful movement by SHIN. But that thing's already spent its energy, so where's the Changeling?
He's also going to try to scout Ozzy properly on the other side of the map. He is deep into the main. He's got a Changeling running around. He is clearly looking for a Spire too, but there is no Spire on Dark side. At least there wasn't. last time we checked. This is an excellent scout, by the way, by SHIN, right? Because he saw the natural, he sees the main base.
And Dark as well. Dark also saw the Spire with his Changeling, so slight oversight for SHIN. He was so worried about scouting Dark that he didn't focus on denying Dark scouting. And of course, we can't see it, neither can SHIN. Is there now a Spire? Is it a Hydrodon? Is it an Infestation Pit? How is Dark responding? He has to play a guessing game. +1 melee and Link Speed are both almost finished. He's going to get across and pressure with those units.
If there is a Spire for Dark, though, I almost think that he should play Corruptors, right?
Most likely. Having +1 range and roaches.
Nidus, maybe.
Oh, that's going to be very nice. He's already got Novaseer sliding to the back of SHIN's base. SHIN knows about it, though. His Queens aren't damaging it. Those Mutalisks should be able to shut that down. Now, SHIN needs to just keep making army. If he keeps making army, he should be able to be favored. But if he goes back to droning and gets surprised, that's where he loses.
This could be a big moment as well. You don't want to throw away too many Zerglings, and the Roaches were very well positioned. Don't think SHIN quite knows yet. The Zerglings are going to run towards the right side, but at first Nidus is going to go up in the top left. What Dark does incredibly well, by the way, is scare you. Put these units in your face. A drone, 2 drones on the production there, by the way, Piggy. SHIN now gets the heads up, and the Nidus is up. What is ultra important is he does not allow a second Nidus to go up closer to the main base than the first one is.
Force Mine starting in his natural, and that's the right call. The Lings are going in for the counter attack with the Mutalisks. A fantastic choice. He's going for the worm. The Queens are going to pop out at home. The Queens are getting taken down as they pop out against the Ling Muta. But some of the Mutalisks are starting to fall. Nice transfuses here for Dark. The Mutas are going down.
This is not it. SHIN is, I don't know what he was thinking. He's kind of going for everything. He does find a decent amount of the Queens. Maybe it is it, because that Spore Crawler got picked off as well. I thought the Spore was going to finish up, so both players are finding a lot of damage. The Queen count is not that high anymore. Dark, obviously, his natural is in shambles, but his Roaches are doing fantastic work on the other side of the map. Most of the time when it gets this close, there might be some units stuck, by the way, in this Nidus. The Worm is going to get picked off. There is no more transfuse to save it. We're going to try to build a couple of spores on the other side of the map.
He just lost the head as well. He lost both ends of the Nidus, which means everything inside. Oh, no, he does have a Nidus on the left side. Never mind. He's still got those Roaches alive. If you lose every entrance and exit of the Nidus, you will lose all the supply inside of those. But for now, he's finding massive damage. Those Spine Crawlers making a good account of themselves. The Ling Muta will try to stabilize. If you survive here with Mutalisks and an even base count, you're good. But right now, SHIN is down a hatchery. Cleaning up these Roaches is nice, but he's going to have to explode across the map and find more damage, which he's doing.
I actually think it's okay-ish for SHIN, right? Because he's up 20 supply. The Roaches in the main base were just move-click behind that spawning pool. I thought maybe if Dark gets like 6 or 7 additional workers here, it's still going to be okay. But he didn't get those workers. This Spore Crawler is going to try to burrow. In the end, it will get a few shots up, but not enough to kill a Mutalisk. The second Muta low on HP, that one survives as well. SHIN with a crazy counterattack, just kind of running everything he has into the natural of Dark, taking a fight against the Queens right before the Spore was up, and Dark is going to have to tap out. GG, SHIN with a mental counter. Honestly, insane call there, Piggy, and very, very impressed. And even when all those Queens and Roaches popped out, he stuck around. He split off a few links to take out that Spore, and I think that was massive, because if that Spore Crawler finishes up, there is no way that he can stick around there with the Mutalisk.
That was clutch. The moment when those Lings pulled back for half a second, I was worried, because I do think if he pulls home, he kind of gets stuck in a really awkward spot. I think at least forcing the defense from Dark was a good move. I was with you. When you were saying this looks not that great, I was like, yeah, it looks like the Mutas are starting to drop. But then all the Queens are gone, and you got to realize Queens gain value over time. You take the Queens out, you can't just rebuild them. They take forever to produce. And this was just such a massive play out of SHIN. The Spines were very late, of course. He had no idea this was coming. If those Spines had already been up, it would have been a much easier defense for SHIN at home. But as it was, he handled things really well with the crisis management, the drone pull, the Spines defending, and Dark tried to pick off some more units, but it wasn't enough. And the 3-0 gets denied. We might now have a series on our hands.
And towards the end, Dark had like 7 Roaches or so left. He sent them in the main. I was like, if he splits them up in 2 groups right now, a couple on the left side of the mineral line, couple on the right side where the extractors are, then even if the drones get pulled, I feel like he gets 4 or 5 more. He buys a little bit of time, and then SHIN's worker count is incredibly low, but wasn't able to do it. He kind of just clicked it, right-click behind the spawning pool, took a lot of damage, allowed Zerglings and Mutas to catch up, and we've got a series. And that's obviously everything we want here in the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. In the bottom right side of Oceanborn, still playing a great series, very close to closing it out, but not quite enough. This is Dark.
And on the top left side of the map, striking back but he's still on his final life. He has to win this game and the next to close out the series. In the top left for Mystery Gaming, it's SHIN.
Love that smile on his face as well, the happiness there where he's like, whoa, that was crazy, it worked and I love it. And I mean, that's kind of early what we said as well, where SHIN in general doesn't second guess himself. He's a very decisive player. And to make a call like that, when you haven't scouted the Nidus, just a moment where you just built one drone, two drone, and you hear that terrifying Nidus sound, to then immediately grab everything, run to the other side of the map. Like, you don't have a couple seconds to think about it. Because if you think about it for a little while, it's already too late. You just need to do it immediately, follow that gut instinct. A very ballsy call, but he got rewarded for it.
It's going to be a more conservative opening for both sides in Game 4. No more, well, not conservative, I should say, more standard. They were playing very safe with the 15 hatchery, 15 pool before, but back towards hatch gas pool. Now, so far in this series, we've seen 3 games that look so different to, say, a Serral versus Reynor match. There's a lot of players where they'll play, you know, fast ling speed, taking third bases. That's the very standard way of playing the matchup, where you're scouting, you're interacting, there's a constant back and forth. The way there's been these kind of quick wall-offs from Dark, it's basically said, hey, you can't scout me early, I'm rushing tech, and it creates a much fiercer dynamic of this tech either works or it doesn't work. One player has the mutas, that's better than the roaches. The Nidus Worm can potentially kill the Mutalisks. You know, going for the Mutaling Bane beats going for mutas back into roaches. You've got these very sharp tech choices, and neither player was willing to just kind of defend, take a third, and drone up. Now, off a hatch gas pool opening, we're much more likely to see a more standard back and forth Ling Bane war.
Wouldn't hate it. I mean, Ling Bane, temporary Ling Bane, I feel like the days and age that we stick around on Ling Bane for a long time, or that Dark just thinks that he's going to out-micro SHIN so badly that making a crazy amount of Lings and Banes to go to cut it are long gone. But it is always worth to drop a Baneling Nest, mostly for safety reasons, and sometimes even if you don't use the Baneling Nest early, you can still get some value out of it once you have lair tag, right? Pick up a couple of Banelings in a drop lord, fly it into a middle line, kill a few drones. It doesn't hurt that much to build a Baneling Nest early on. It is better, obviously, to avoid it if you don't want to be too aggressive and just go straight into Ling Roach, but that is risky, because if you then miss a few Banes morphing on your side of the map and the aggression shows up before the Roaches are out in high numbers, it could be the end of your CVZ.
Baneling Nest on the way for both sides. Third Queen starts up earlier for Dark. That is a sign of defensive play, being a little bit more aggressive potentially for SHIN, though for now SHIN's up a few workers, and he does start those Zerglings a bit earlier. 2 Overlords coming out for him as well, lots more Zerglings on the way, so SHIN will put on some form of forwards pressure. Not a massive amount of Zerglings though, as he does go back to droning.
Yep, it feels like these are just the safety links, and obviously you can poke a little bit and be annoying on the other side of the map. You can scout properly with it, and the moment that Dark sees that amount of links, Dark's going to make those links as well. Now Dark is probably going to do it of 1 or 2 drones more than when SHIN fired up those units, so Dark's going to have a very tiny economic advantage, but that's kind of it. A Roach Warren going down as well, all the way in the back of the natural. I mean, SHIN is no stranger from just staying on hatchery tech, making a lot of units and rallying everything. Dark is gonna go pretty much.
Great minds think alike, Roddy. Yeah. Great minds think alike. Now SHIN, don't think he saw the Roach Warren there. He was close to it, but not quite. Dark has not seen his Roach Warren either. They're both droning for now. No massive signs of an attack for Dark, but SHIN, he's building extra Overlords. He's banking up money. Looks like SHIN wants to go for a quick Roach Baneling attack off 38 drones.
The Solar special.
His favorite build indeed. Solar is an expert at just decapitating nerds with this build, but it's been a mainstay in the Korean scene, especially for a while. I remember the Europeans weren't doing it, and now they are. You know, it's just such a scary attack. Interestingly, SHIN builds drones behind though, so it's not all in. It's more of like a light attack or a fake out, I believe. Yep,
he can obviously show all these roaches, move out with it. If he fires up a lair immediately, we're going to take a little look at the first-person view of Dark, as Dark has a couple of lings and a few banelings on the other side of the map. But he's going to see these roaches, and now we wonder, how is Dark going to react? I don't think Dark is Omega concerned by seeing this, because he hasn't been that greedy. He's made a lot of units, he has a Roach Warren, he can fire up his own roaches. He obviously sees that these roaches are slow, and he didn't even drop a single spine.
Did he even build a single roach? He built like 4? Like, not very many roaches at all. You see 9 roaches coming. Most players build a spine there. Some players cancel lair. Like, you know, he basically just did such a small response there, did Dark. Very chilled out.
We'll hope that he has an Overlord popping soon, though, because he's been on 82 for a bit. And there we go. 1 Overlord did go out. I mean, he can obviously continue building units as well. He's got a few banelings here. He's looking for a nice connection on the Zerglings of Ragnarok. That's not going to work. SHIN, however, is going to send these links deep into the main base. We'll see that lair. I have the feeling that the lair just got fired up. Dark is going to move his roaches back too. Very curious to see what's happening on the other side of the map. What's on the production tab for SHIN?
Yeah.
Dark has been trying to scout, but it's just been hard, right? Because SHIN has been kind of in his face, has been showing him units, has been running links around.
What an interesting thing. I was confused. I thought he built only a few roaches because he didn't have any roaches on a control group. But Dark is just a very unique player in how he organized it. His Lings and Banes were on control groups, his roaches weren't. And he moved out for like a fake counterattack and immediately just pulled them back and said, no, we're playing conservative. No need to force the issue. And now we get to see the Overseer Scout trying to get in. SHIN is trying to block it. And for now, he is successful. Slight worker advantage for SHIN as well. It looks like he's come out in a very good spot. It's Roach Muta against potentially Roach Muta. It could be Corruptors, of course, reactively for Dark here. This is a very even game. Oh, but great scouting. Look at that.
Yep, and now we wonder, obviously, has SHIN scouted the Spire of Dark yet? Because that is obviously a big thing for SHIN to figure out as well. SHIN might just think like, as long as I go up to Mutalisk, I'm going to be okay. But it's super interesting to see if this Overseer can get deep enough. It's really not starting to look like it. I don't think we have a Zergling here either, or a Changeling that is going to confirm that there is a Spire. And we can't forget everything that has happened on Oceanborn. That's the game where Dark reactively dropped a Nidus network after he scouted that Spire. SHIN might be worried about that. Dark's going to see that this Spire will finish up. So you think he's going to go for Corruptors, Roaches and Corruptors? You think it's the play?
I think it's a very good play. I know you put Cyril in his shoes. He'd definitely do it. He loves that play. Dark's done it before. The fact that he's going +2 range and more Roaches, it doesn't feel like he's just leaning into mass Muta of his own.
No.
But we'll see exactly what happens, of course. I'm also curious to see SHIN's production tab because we don't see any Muta upgrade just yet. And I feel like Mutalisk upgrades are fantastic. There we go. Corruptors on the way for Dark. You really want to get attack upgrades or armor upgrades are actually amazing. If you can get +1 armor Corruptors, they just don't take damage from Mutas.
Yeah, they are going to be pretty tanky regardless, right? Especially if the Mutas don't have +1 flyer attacks yet. SHIN is also investing in +2 missile attacks, but like Mutas need to really be in way higher numbers than Corruptors to have a big impact. The Mutas are here, they're going to pick off a Baneling, but that's kind of it. I think Dark tried to hide the Corruptors there for a split second. Honestly, it almost feels that the air units are going to cancel each other out, and SHIN, I think, is aware of that, so he's immediately queuing up 15 Roaches. That's a fight, by the way, that the Corruptors will win. SHIN did manage to get a cancel on the 4th base with his own Roaches. That's a pretty big play pick.
Gets 2 Overlords and 2 Mutalisks as well. Pretty good pickoffs for Dark to counter it. Losing the 4th does suck, but of course, getting some units of his own is fine. Very similar work account so far.
I wonder if there's a window that Dark can find where he will force the fight with +2 missile attacks and SHIN will still be on +1. Because there is a pretty decent advantage there. This is a great tiny little circling run by in the 4th base. Dark obviously had to cancel his own 4th base, but these Corruptors are really doing their thing. They're going to go for Overlords. The Mutalisk of SHIN are going to go for the Overlords of Dark. I wonder what the Roach count is at the moment. Both of them obviously working with a silly amount of Roaches. 44 Roaches and 5 Ravages on the side of SHIN. Dark has a few more, and don't forget about that little window that Dark can find where he's got the upgrade.
And SHIN's delivering that timing to him, Roddy. He's going across right now. +2's not just done just yet for Dark. So Dark wants to wait a few seconds to fight if he can, but of course SHIN is forcing the issue. SHIN is shoving it in right now. He's going towards that 3rd base. Dark with a massive angle. He's coming in from 2 sides.
10 seconds to go for +2 to finish up. Don't forget, by the way, that once Dark has taken out all these Mutas, he could technically make some of his own Mutalisk. He's got a Spire. SHIN has absolutely nothing that shoots up right now, so that could be annoying. Are the Corruptors going for that hatchery in the top side of the map? Are they using Caustic Spray? It's really starting to look like it. I mean, Dark is just taking fantastic fights here. He had to cancel his own 4th hatchery, but he's gonna kill the 4th hatchery of SHIN, and he's also the one winning the air battle. He's winning the Roach battle. This kind of feels everywhere we look. Dark is getting W's on the board, and only now +2 is done for SHIN. He took a severe beating in this +2 missile attacks advantage window of Dark.
I mean, I like the upgrades, but I think the 4th base is way more important. SHIN needs to get that 4th base rebuilding. The fact that he's taking so long is costing him severely. Dark's 4th base is now finished in mining. SHIN finally restarts his 4th base.
And SHIN is making pretty early Hydras too, but Hydras are not that fantastic in Roach Ravager battles. Like, Ravagers are just better because you're going to spam corrosive power, you're going to force the army of SHIN to walk away over and over again. Hydras are expensive. That Hydra then is actually going to get picked off before Muscular Augments, aka Hydra Speed, is going to finish up as well. Things are going from bad to worse for SHIN, but he does still have an army. And as long as you have an army, you always believe that you can make some magic happen. The Corruptors are going to use Caustic Spray again, this time around in the natural, and SHIN is becoming a 2-base Zerg.
Oh man, that is massive. Dark spraying down multiple of those hatcheries. The Roach positioning is really good for SHIN though. SHIN's got a good angle. You gotta be really careful. Those 2 Mutalisks adding a bit of damage from above as well. SHIN does split his army up here though, and maybe that gives Dark an opportunity to hold. We are close to Dark's base. Dark has defender's advantage. The Corruptors come over to clean up the Mutalisks. The Roach Hydra is there. The units to the south that he split off are getting outnumbered right now.
Don't forget, these Hydras are slow because Muscular Augments got cancelled. Makes it very hard for these Hydras to move at the same pace as the Roaches and avoid those corrosive balls. Dark is forced to pull the drones, and he's going to lose 20 drones. But Dark knows losing a couple of drones is okay because he's got 4 bases. He can easily rebuild them. And this army of SHIN can't possibly make it home safely. Some of the Roaches, sure, the Hydras, they are simply too slow after that Hydra then got picked off. And don't forget, there's barely any anti-air on the side of SHIN. So these Corruptors can do that thing again. And SHIN is starting to realize that he is in all sorts of trouble. It's been another fantastic run for him here in Poland, but I'm afraid that his journey will end here, and it's really starting to look like Dark will make it into the semifinals of this edition.
I think splitting a few Hydras off was key. SHIN didn't do it, and he's had 2 of these hatcheries sniped. Without taking those defenses, the Corruptors have just been too effective, killing so many of his hatcheries, cancelling multiple of them as well. SHIN is on desperation. He's desperation mode. He's massing Ravagers right now. He's going to go for one last fight, but Dark has a massive army advantage. He has not rebuilt workers at all. He's up 60 army supply. That is a ridiculous Roach count for Dark.
Yep, 155 army supply of Dark is going to shove into this 3-base setup. And SHIN knows that this is an army he can't possibly stop. Dark looked like a very complete ZVZ player in this series. He's willing to be crazy, he's willing to be solid, he's willing to do scout and react. Dark was perfect across the board, dropped 1 map, but overall a very convincing W for the man who's representing his new organization, Talon Esports. Dark will be making it to the Esports World Cup this summer, and Dark can still dream about lifting that IEM trophy for the first time in his career.
A massive, massive run so far, and he seals the deal. Dark looking fantastic. In the dynamic Zerg vs Zerg matchup, he brings out some special tactics, and they pay off with great rewards. A dominant 3-1 victory for Dark.